Haste.
It's been over 2 years since I've played Risk of Rain 2, and apparently, a lot has happened in that time. I've loved this game and it's inspired me to create this channel to make videos to share to others who are also passionate about this game. So to start the new year off and to catch me up to speed, I thought I would do a little research and just see what happened to the game I love in the last 2 years. Because, as of now, what happened? But before we dive into all these negative comments, let's go all the way back to March 2022 when Risk of Rain 2 releases the Survivors of the Void DLC. The last major release was the new survivor, the Captain, but the new DLC brought 2 new survivors, a host of new items, enemies, stages, music, and much more. This was a huge update from the base game and took a little over 3 years to get a big update like this, so expectations were very high. This was the last expansion that I played, and I can say it was very enjoyable change of pace. Getting this much content was amazing, but the expansion wasn't without controversy. Some players argued that locking new content behind a paywall made it unfair since the expansion was an additional cost. For me personally, I love the Risk of Rain 2 universe and everything it has to offer, so it really was a no-brainer to purchase this new content. However, to some, paying much more for content just didn't seem fair. I think that the base game is enjoyable by itself, and if you wanted the extra content, then for the price, it was well worth it. But now, onto the actual DLC. When Survivors of the Void was released, there were some looming questions about what would happen to the state of the game. Would it be harder, easier, power creep, diluted item pools? What about the console ports? When are they getting the new content? Hopoo Games made an interview where they answered all these questions and did a good job explaining what would happen to the new survivors, monsters, and items. Power creep, a term used to explain new content making old content obsolete, didn't feel out of place. It is a single player game after all, with co-op multiplayer, but the only competition is with the game itself and not against anyone else. Well, except when your teammates steal all your boss items. With the addition of new void items, it did feel like some were more overpowered than others. But the implementation of these items felt good because there were trade-offs. You lose the base item and get a new item that is upgraded, so I think that adding 40 plus new items were a good change of pace that the game needed. The trickiest part about the expansions were the consoles. It was way harder to get the updates over to them since it was a third-party company that did all those updates. But in November 2022, the DLC was finally released and the console players rejoiced. Shortly after November 2022, Gearbox buys Risk of Rain 2. This was a huge shakeup and news that no one really saw coming. Gearbox Publishing has had big names like Borderlands, Half-Life, and this news just hit with skepticism from the community. Would Gearbox keep the same vision that Hopoo Games has had for their beloved game, Risk of Rain 2? Hopoo said that they would fill a more advisory role, but did hint that they would be creating one last project with Gearbox, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later. There are good and bad things about this acquisition, but the future did look a little bit bright. Hopoo has been working on this franchise for over a decade, and now there are new eyes ready to expand and push for more content. Otherwise, Gearbox wouldn't have had bought this game in the first place. They promise good things like PC and console updates coming at the same time, which makes sense for a publisher and developer to do. But in any case, only time would tell if they would be a good company for the Risk of Rain franchise. But getting back to that little project that Hopoo and Gearbox were working together on, November 8th, 2023, Risk of Rain Returns was released. Risk of Rain Returns was a remake of the original Risk of Rain with an updated feel. Personally, I just enjoyed the charm of playing Risk of Rain 1, so I was pretty excited when I found out that I could play the same style game again. New survivors, new levels, new items, and you could sink hundreds of hours into this game. It was just refreshing to know that Gearbox still had the original game at heart and was willing to remake a classic like this. Gearbox announces new content for Risk of Rain 2, and a new DLC preview is sprinkled upon us. This would be Gearbox's first DLC content that is created and developed by them, so the community only has one question. Will it be good? Wait, what is this? So they start the announcement with an ad for the new mobile game, and in my honest opinion, hey, it looked pretty cool. Oh, well, that was short-lived. I actually really like ARPG games, and the gameplay didn't look too bad. So if you can overlook the predatory monetization of mobile games, which I don't even know if this game had, but I guess it's kind of sad to say we don't even get to try it. But let's get to the real news. Seeker of the Storm. New boss, the false sun, and lore that comes with it. very cool and promising DLC coming in the future. The new mobs, stages, colors, the world, I love it all. Just watching this trailer for the first time makes me immeasurably excited to play Risk of Rain 2 again. Disaster. Secret of the Storm DLC is released, and it's not good. The DLC broke the game, and was released with so many bugs that it just made it unplayable for most. Another content creator, Race, had a Google Doc with pages and pages of bugs that were found, and that's just not acceptable for a big company to release purchased content like that. The community and creators were outraged, and rightfully so. Gearbox responded with a letter letting us know that they were looking to fix the problems that they created, but it may have been a little too late. The problems probably shouldn't have even been released with the game in the first place, and maybe they should have delayed the release if there were that many issues, but with big companies and big churn, it's hard to tell what went wrong with this release. Looking into the debacle makes me kinda sad, since I just watched this epic trailer that is so exciting, and then to be let down with an unplayable experience is just meh. I know no gaming company wants to release a game with bugs, but it happens, and all we can do is move forward, and let's just see how they fix the problem at hand. Gearbox releases new patch notes, and it's a long one. Big fixes and big changes are happening to make the game playable again. It looks like this patch settles the angry mob, but only for now, because everyone still wants their beloved game back. In the midst of all this chaos, Hopoo Games shuts down. Hopoo Games releases a single tweet saying that they will be moving on to work at Valve and will be pausing all projects that they were working on. It's bittersweet to see a good team like this stop, but as I know all too well, sometimes you just need a little change, and working for Valve is a big step forward in their careers. Hopefully it opens doors and other ventures for them. They haven't left the community high and dry, and they still frequent the Discord every now and then. So now we're pretty much caught up with everything that's happened over the last 2 years. The Secret of the Storm DLC was released, and now there are steps forward to fixing the problems that came with it. The 2.0 roadmap has 3 phases and the order of changes that they are fixing. Items and elites, False Sun boss, and lastly the survivors. Without getting too much into the weeds, this is where we stand now. A game that I love, but possibly put on hold, until everything else can be fixed before I can experience the true Secret of the Storm content. And let me just finish by saying, I still love this game and everything that it's done for me. I know I don't make videos as much as I used to, and that's just due to me and my personal life having been busy, but I'm excited to see what the future holds for this franchise and this game.